Hi, I'm Rebecca Forster, realtor and financial coach, and today I'm going to be talking about the National Association of Realtors lawsuit. You may have heard in the news that buyers' agents are no longer going to be compensated by sellers. Well, that's not true necessarily. There are two main changes that happened, and what's basically changed is that commissions for buyers' agents is no longer going to be public information. So when I have a listing for a seller, I cannot put how much the seller is willing to pay the buyer's agent on the multiple listing service. And the multiple listing service is what populates to Zillow and Redfin. So buyers won't be able to know how much commissions payable to their agent are going to be. Now, in addition, the second thing that's changed is that a buyer cannot go and see homes except for public open houses without going into an agreement in writing with a buyer's agent. And they have to outline and go over how much they're willing to pay their agent or how much that buyer's agent is willing to work for in order to work with that buyer. And so that buyer's basically saying, I will pay you blank amount for you to represent me in buying a home. Now, if that buyer then finds a home and the seller is not paying the buyer's agent any fees, then the buyer will be responsible to pay their buyer's agent. So buyers might pay buyer's agent fees. Sellers still might pay. We don't know how the market's going to respond. We don't know if everyone's going to do one thing or if it's going to be a mix. So it's all to be determined, and everything changes August 1st. And it might still modify, it might still change, but this is what's supposed to happen going forward as of right now. Who is this good for? This might not be good for buyers. So if you think about it, will sellers reduce the price of their home if they don't pay buyer's agent fees? I don't think so. So if a buyer has to pay premium amounts for the home and their buyer's agent fee, then they're having to come out of pocket even more. And that's another barrier to entry for home ownership. So that's not great for the consumer. I also like public knowledge. I think it's important that people know how much a buyer's agent is going to be compensated, that the agent doesn't steer their client to properties offering more commission. Price steering is illegal, and that's not something that we want to happen in this market. All this lack of transparency hasn't helped the consumer. It's hindering the consumer, in my opinion. And commissions have always been negotiable. So this talk of commissions have always been fixed is not true. And if the listing agent doesn't want to work for what the seller's willing to pay, then they choose to walk. And that's completely fine. Or they work it out until everybody's happy. And the buyer's agency, that's always been negotiable as well. Now it involves the buyer to where the buyer is liable to pay that side if no commissions are being paid by the seller. So if a buyer says, I won't sign anything with anyone, and the listing agent can then represent me. And if their seller isn't offering any commissions, then they can just represent me. Well, I don't know listing agents who are willing to work for free, because if you take on a buyer, then you have double liability. I don't know many listing agents that would be willing to say, I'll take dual liability for no additional compensation. So even the listing agents will likely charge a fee. Who knows what that is? I'm not sure how the market's going to respond. We'll have to see. So again, just those two changes have happened. No longer is it public information what the seller is willing to pay the buyer's agent, and the buyer cannot see houses except for public open houses without entering into a formal written agreement with a buyer's agent. And they commit to pay the buyer's agent if the seller doesn't pay them directly. So I don't think these changes are good for the average consumer. And I do not think it's going to help get people into homeownership that currently don't own. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you feel more informed, and let me know what you'd like to know more about. Take care and God bless.